This is the Big Story segment right here on BusinessDay Television, the breakfast show, and my name is Deborah Ezeh. Today, we examine a troubling trend reshaping the political landscape of Africa, the resurgence of military takeovers, and what this means for the future of democracy on the continent. Between 2020 and 2025, Africa has witnessed a significant number of successful military coups, each raising fresh concerns about governance, stability, and the resilience of democratic institutions. Beginning with Sudan in 2021, followed by Mali also in 2021, the wave continued in Burkina Faso in 2022 and then Niger in 2023. Gabon joined the list in 2023, marking another abrupt end to civilian rule. This year, 2025, saw the military seize power in Madagascar. The latest takeover occurred in Guinea-Bissau, allegedly adding yet another African nation to the growing tally of countries where the armed forces have stepped in to remove elected government. In total, this development highlights a concerning pattern of democratic backsliding across the continent. Meanwhile, even in countries where democratic structures remain intact, failed or alleged coup attempts have been also recorded. Here in Nigeria, for instance, there was reports in September first published by Sahara reporters alleging a plan to overthrow the government, though authorities have not confirmed any active threat. These repeated disruptions raise major questions. Why are coups resurfacing? What does this mean for political stability, economic development, and the continent's democratic future? And crucially, are African democracies truly under threat, or is the current wave of reaction too deep or deeper governance failures? Now, joining us to throw more light to this conversation is Dr. Chido Nwakama. He's a media expert and communication strategist. Good morning, Dr. Chido. It's good to have you on The Big Story.
Thank you, Deborah. Pleasure to be here.
All right, let's go straight into it. So what you see as the main drivers behind the resurgence of military coup, especially across Africa, and this is since 2020?
I think it's important to stress that it's not just across Africa, but significantly, it is almost localized in West Africa. And you begin to wonder, why is that so? There are quite a number of factors that are responsible for the backsliding in West Africa. Number one is the fact that our democracies didn't really take root. They're not strong. Two, those West Africans elected to run their affairs chose not to run it in the best interest of society. They were running semi-authoritarian regimes. They were deceiving the people. They were taking the resources that were meant for the generality of people to themselves and their families. So, as they did that across West Africa, there was a breakdown in trust. The trust that's integral to the relationship between the governed and the government kept breaking down. Then you have the factor of unmet needs, societal needs. Apparently, over the years in West Africa, governments just did what they like, took the people for a ride. Unfortunately for them, the economies can no longer support that level of waste. So the consequence is that citizens are under increasing pressure. And as they are pressured, some go and pressure the military. Don't forget that the military are also part of that society. They are there. And they are wondering. And then over the years, the military has had this Messianic complex. They feel that, yes, the man on horseback can solve the problem. We will go there and solve the problem. So that's what's happening. They are taking over and taking over and taking over in about 8 countries now in West Africa.
Yeah. So many of this coup have happened in economies that are struggling. Now, to what extent do you think economic hardship is fueling public support for military intervention?
It's major. It's a major reason for the support. The other, of course, as I've mentioned, is that the governments are losing legitimacy. And they are losing it because increasingly they are spendthrift, they are wasteful, they don't care about the people. So when those stories come out, people are wondering, okay, so is this the cost of democracy? Why do we have to pay such a huge price? We're not getting the services that we need. These people are not mindful of our needs. They don't care about us. So once that trust has been broken, people are like, we don't care what happens. There's nobody to defend against any intruder. So the notion, therefore, of the military coup as an aberration has changed in those countries, in West Africa. Even here in Nigeria, there was news about a coup, and many citizens looked forward to it. That's a sad thing to admit, but many citizens were like, hey, if they want to come, may they come now. That's bad. That should give pause to anybody in authority to say,
Okay, let's look at examples of the African countries who have actually, had coups. Either it was successful or not. We have Sudan, Mali, we have Burkina Faso, Niger, Gabon, and just recently Guinea-Bissau. There's still a lot of controversy around that one. So do you think the governance is actually linked to the failure of the governance is linked to the cases of this African
Definitely.
countries? Okay.
Definitely. Of course, there is another factor. In West Africa is under severe pressure from the Sahel. You remember the Libyan matter?
Yeah.
And how a lot of people have been forced to come down this way. Some blame it on the environmental factors. Some say it was because with the fall of Gaddafi, there was nothing holding back that force at that end. So, and then, of course, a lot of people got hold of arms, and many of them are heading this way into West Africa. So that is, and of course, there is the factor of the subcontinental body, ECOWAS. It's merely a talk shop. It has no force to do. They have issued statements. They have claimed to clamp down on Guinea-Bissau's new government. What's that? What does it amount to? Nothing. Yeah, it's statements that have no force, no consequence. The guys can ignore ECOWAS, as most of them have done. Indeed, the other one, the 3 nations, not only ignored ECOWAS, but set up their own.
Okay, so are we not going to link this to civilian government weakness? Because you mentioned earlier that the military see themselves as the solution to the problems that the civilian rule is actually encountering. Don't you see it as a weakness? And do you really think it's a bad thing that the military think they can actually do a better job?
It is a bad thing.
Okay.
The global consensus, not just African consensus, the global consensus is that democracy is the best form of government. We in Africa have bought into it. We agree that we should have. But what then happens? We elect people who, once they get into office, forget where they are coming from, forget the purpose, the mission and vision of government. They think it's about them. So a lot of them coming from poor backgrounds or rich backgrounds begin to go on a binge. In our own case, Mr. President went on purchase of unnecessary luxuries, a yacht, big cars for himself, for his wife, and then dashed members of the National Assembly. They just prioritized their own luxuries, not welfare, not essential needs. They treat the office as their time to indulge in excesses, to have a holiday at the expense of citizens. And citizens are seeing this. So yes, the civilian governments that we have are undermining democracy every week, every day, through their actions and utterances. They behave as if citizens who elected them do not matter. So if you undermine democracy by your own activities, when there is a pushback, the citizen cannot come and say, no, don't do this. So we have a situation where we cannot say, nah, our government. That's our government. Citizens are very reluctant to claim any of the governments across West Africa.
Yeah. Okay, so ECOWAS and the African Union, they've come out to repeatedly condemn this coup. So why do you think these sanctions and warnings are not, it's not getting to these countries? It's not showing any effective deterrent.
They're just statements. There's no force backing them. So what does ECOWAS say? Okay, you've removed them from membership and all that. In the case of Nigeria and the other three, Mali and all that, we even tried to sanction. ECOWAS issued some sanctions, but those sanctions depended on Nigeria. Those sanctions could not come into effect because of the structure of our economies, the linkages. How do you implement it when to get your own supplies, you have to pass through those? So those guys just shut their own doors. Niger and all that. And suddenly we became the hunted. Those were the ones who were supposedly hunting, became the hunted. And once they realized that they had that hold, they went on and formed their own.
All right. Let's bring it back to Nigeria now. In my intro, I mentioned that sometime in September, the reports of an alleged coup surfaced around September. So what do you think this says about stability of democracy in this region?
It confirms that it's essentially very weak. It confirms that those in government in Nigeria and across West Africa are not paying attention. They are not listening to the citizens. They don't pay heed to what citizens are saying. Indeed, it's look at the security situation in Nigeria. You came in, you said, security will be a major focus area. And then 2 years later, nothing has happened. 2 years later, you are not funding security, even though there is a huge budget supposedly for that. The soldiers are complaining. They are going to the war front to engage Boko Haram, ISWAP, and all of that. And they report that they have inferior arms compared to those people that they are going to fight. So the guys see that you've just put them out there to waste their lives. Look at the general that they killed. ISWAP wasted him. Of course, there's a suspicion that it was a compromise. His own communication line with his troops was compromised and threw him. But be that as it may, what has since happened? Not even a statement from the federal government. Nothing to show concern that you lost a general of the Nigerian army. Hello? If I were in the army and I see that happening, I will lose hope. He says to me, boy, if a general can be so wasted and the government is not doing anything about it, not saying anything about it, why am I here? What am I doing? So our governments are undermining democracy by their own actions.
So I'm going to take you back to you saying that democracy is the way when it comes to ruling and not the military way. But with all of this crisis that is happening around democracy, do you still take that stance on the fact that democracy should be cut across Africa and not the military? Because you've mentioned so many bottlenecks that has to do with the civilian rule. So do you still stand on that fact that military should not have any place when it comes to ruling?
What has happened is that we have experienced both.
Yeah.
We have experienced the military, we have experienced civilian rule, democracy. And our experience is that if we practice democracy properly, the representative nature ensures that what we call the dividends of democracy spread. But that's if we practice it properly, as it should be done. Indeed, if we give it 50%, you will see how it happens. And every state that government has tried to activate representation as it should be, citizens of those states are happy with democracy. However, the scorecard is that the majority of states do not care. They don't care. I was recently in Gombe. We had an activity. I tried to reach the governor. We then discovered, as they told us, the man spends half the time in Abuja. He's a visitor to his state capital. If you don't get him in those 1 or 2 days when he is present, your best bet is to head to Abuja. So you find that the elite, the middle class in that state are always chasing after the governor to Abuja. That's where they manage to meet with him. That's why they hold discussions and all that. And you then wonder, if this gentleman has projects in his state, when does he examine them? When does he inspect them? When does he take charge? And how do his citizens who cannot fly to Abuja, do they meet? When will they meet with him? So whenever he is around, it's almost like a carnival. Governor is in town now. Governor is in town. And it's across. It's all over. all over the country. The governors are not at home. They are not in situ. They are not on seat, as we say. So why are you not on seat? I thought this is what you said you wanted to do. And some of you broke people's heads. Some of you did all manner of things to get this power. Now that you have it, now that you've found power, what are you doing with it?
I like how you've highlighted the problems and also giving solution at the same time. So finally, before I let you go, Dr. Chido, we see that Africa is actually heading towards an era of prolonged military rule. So do you think this is temporary? Do you think it's just a wave that will pass? Or do you think it's something that Africa is going deep into and it might be too late for us to like come back from it?
Ooh, it's too early to come to a definitive conclusion about what will happen. I say so because here, in our own case, we had about 30 years of military rule. We got tired. There were many agitations. And the external factors also helped us. The Soviet Union was collapsing. Military rule was proving antithetical everywhere. So we lapped into it. Now you have a unipolar world. The US is the sole power. But watch out. China has focused on business, on economics. That does not mean they are not interested in having satellites like other powerful countries did. Even the US has tried not to have satellites like the model of the UK. Britannia ruled the world. Britannia took over and had satellites. America has tried to avoid that. However, this unipolar thing, it's doubtful how long it will last and what the consequences will be for African countries and all that, who will take that. For instance, we do not know what the American interest is beyond exploiting raw materials from Africa. Are they really interested in democracy in Africa? The jury is out. There is no clear-cut evidence that their interest is in seeing us run democracies. It's not clear. And the Chinese just want to extract resources. How you govern yourself, that's your business.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chido. It's really good to have you on The Big Story.
Thank you.
All right, we're on to Dr. Chido Nwakama. He's media expert and communication strategist. The Breakfast Show continues with the social listening segment after this break. Do stay with us.